There is something about midlife that strips away the noise. Not in a dramatic, burn it all down kind of way, although sometimes that does happen, but typically in a much more quiet, more honest way. You start to notice what's actually working and what you've just been tolerating. And your body most likely feels it before your head and heart ever realize it. What brings life to you and what has slowly been draining it. If I'm being honest, midlife has been less about reinventing myself, which is kind of the messaging the world gives us, and more about remembering who I was before I learned how to keep everyone else happy. And let me tell you, friends, remembering who I was didn't come instantly. It was a slow fade into the checklists that the world had handed me. In today's episode, I want to talk about reflection, not resolutions, but reflection, but not the kind that spirals into any type of self criticism. This is reflection as wisdom, this is reflection as alignment, and this is reflection as a spiritual practice. Friends, one of the things that I'm deeply, deeply committed to is living from my divine design. And it's something that I help my clients do. And what is divine design? It's how God created us to be. And sometimes we can be doing all the things and we're doing good things. And so it feels right, but it also doesn't feel right. There feels like something is missing. And that's typically your sign that you're not living out the gifts, the spiritual gifts that God has given you. So we are going to talk about what has worked, what's been working in past seasons of your life, what's currently working, what isn't working, and then how to discern what God is inviting you to release and what He's has you carrying forward into the next season. Because alignment, my friends, is not about becoming someone new. It's about coming home to who you were always designed to be. Welcome to Letting Go Loudly, the podcast you never know you needed. We're your hosts, Leah Lanham and Heather Hetchler, two midlife women, two certified relationship coaches, and two friends who finally got tired of living by the rules we never agreed to. Around here, quiet compliance is officially canceled. We're letting go loudly and we are taking you with us. Now, back to the show. But before I dive right in, I want to let you know that I'm flying solo this episode. My co-host and friend Leah is out helping family, so I am standing in the gap. And I'll tell you this, doing the podcast solo is not as much fun as doing it with her. But you know what? You do what you have to do and you reflect on that. So we're going to start with the first reflection that I want to encourage you to do and that I'm going to do along with you. And in this episode, I'm going to be sharing some personal insights, but also encouraging you to sit with the questions, to sit with the suggestions, and to reflect for yourself. So, the first that we want to talk about is reflecting on your wins and losses without shame. And I even hesitate to use the word win because winning has this connotation that you either do well or you don't. You win or you lose. And I think one of the biggest, I'll say in air quotes, mistakes that we make when we reflect is assuming that if something didn't work, it meant we failed. I am a big proponent and not even believing in mistakes, but rather thinking of them as learning opportunities. So I want you to listen to this. Reflection is not a verdict. It's data. It's data. So as you're going through this episode and as you're sitting and you're quiet after this and you're reflecting and maybe there's some things that you wish you would have done completely different. That doesn't mean that that's the verdict, that that's the end result. It's data. And friends, we can't do better unless we get real about where we are. And so I'm going to go off my outline right here, but I'm going to share this with you. When I speak at organizations and I give talks and workshops on emotional intelligence, which I think is something that, my generation especially wasn't taught. And so unless you've done the work to really get emotionally intelligent and learn all the things about that, many people in our generation don't have those skills. And I'm often asked at the end of my workshops, Heather, what do you think is the most important emotional intelligence skill that you can have? And my answer has never wavered. It is self awareness. Self awareness, because we can't change, we can't move forward, we can't do things differently if we're not able or willing to be self aware, not only of what we want, of that gap between our expectations and reality, but also being aware of our actions on other people. Because we can have the best of intentions, and I am raising my hand here because I'm guilty of this. We oftentimes love people the way we want to be loved. We often do for people what we want done for us. And so your intentions are super, super important. But if they don't land on the other person in a positive way, it's so important to self-reflect on that. So that is such a huge part of reflection, is being self-aware of what you need, of what you want, of your actions, the effect of your actions on other people. So getting back to talking about reflecting on your wins and losses, some wins are not going to look like success from the outside. Sometimes a win is going to be saying no. Sometimes a win is going to be resting without any guilt, because our culture just celebrates busy. Sometimes a win might be surviving a season that you didn't choose. And friends, if that last comment resonates with you, you know exactly what I'm talking about. 2 years ago, I lost my father, and it wasn't necessarily unexpected. He had been slowly declining, and he had a stroke, and he never woke up. And I spent those last days with him in the hospital. I was there with him when he took his last breath. And as hard as it was also a beautiful gift to be holding his hand when Jesus took his, and knowing that he held me when I entered the world. 4 months later, my brother unexpectedly died. And that rocked me and our family to our core. And to be honest, I don't even like to use the word still, because grief doesn't have a timeline. And I miss my brother every day. I grieve for my sister-in-law, for my niece and my nephews every single day. This isn't even a season. This is something that has happened to our family that I would never, ever choose. But making choices to live in that duality of gratitude and grief is a win. And that's a win that I'm going to take with me every day. And it's going to look different every day too. Sometimes what didn't work, my friends, was not a mistake. It was a misalignment. I want to share with you Psalm 139, 23 to 24. Search me, O God, and know my heart. See if there is any offensive way in me, and lead me in the way everlasting. Friends, this is not a prayer of shame. This is a prayer of clarity. So I have a few questions for you, and you want to grab your notebook and jot them down, or you want to re-listen to this, but I want you to reflect on these. What has brought life or breathed life into you this past season? What is breathing life into you in this current season? What cost you more than it gave you? And where did you feel most like yourself? And when did you feel least like yourself? The answers to these are your answers, but they will begin to give you clarity on what you want to do moving forward. Your body, your spirit, your energy, they keep receipts, and I want you to pay attention to them. Now I want to go into our midlife identity shifts, right? So midlife is often when the identities we constructed stop working. So let's with that one for a moment. I don't know why my voice is cracking, but thanks for your patience here. Midlife is often when the identities we constructed stop working, or the identities that were constructed for us stop working. The achiever, the peacekeeper, I'm raising my hand there, the strong one, also me, the I'll just handle it version of you, not because they were bad, but because they were built for survival and not sustainability. Romans 12:2 says, "Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind." That word conform, my friend, it's about being pressed into a mold that was never made for you by God. Many women hit midlife and think, why doesn't this fit anymore? It's kind of like sometimes when I put on my favorite pair of jeans and I'm like, why don't these fit anymore? It's not that I've gained that much more weight. My body has changed. It's changed. And the answer is often, it was never supposed to fit forever. It was never supposed to fit forever. So I'm going to say that again. When women hit midlife and think, why doesn't this fit anymore? Well, the answer is often, it was never supposed to fit that way forever. This season is not about fixing yourself. It's about shedding what God never asked you to carry long term. Let's think about that reframe. If you think about this season of midlife, not about fixing yourself, but about shedding what God never asked you to carry long term, does that feel like freedom to you? Does that feel like relief to you? Friends, I'm going to share this with you. This is foundational to my coaching. This is foundational to my life. This has been life-changing, to not give a cliche, but it has been life-changing for me and life-changing for my clients. We want to make change, right? And so we oftentimes will get the book, we'll listen to the podcast, we'll go to the retreat to learn the things we think we need to learn to be better in a certain area of our life. And we leave the book, the podcast, the workshop, energized, excited, ready to do it all new. And we are on fire for a week or two. And then it fizzles out. And then we tell ourselves the lie, see, I can't do this. I'm not good at this. This relationship was never meant to move forward. I'll never get what I want. Da, 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 da. But friends, we have to take off the old before we put on the new. It's biblical. Paul teaches us in Ephesians that you have to take off the old before you can put on the new. Jesus talks about getting rid of the old wineskins because it's going to burst. We have to do a soul scrub. We have to get rid of the old ways of thinking. We have to get rid of the checklist that the world has put on us. We have to scrub our soul down to the foundation that God gave us. And then we can layer the teachings on top. And then we can layer the scripture on top. And then it makes sense. And then it makes change because we have scrubbed the false ways of thinking, the ways the world told us we needed to be. And now we are living our divine design. Let's think about and reflect on that one. And as we go into the next part that I want to talk to you about, and thank you, I felt like I was preaching on that one because I am on fire about doing the soul scrub. And we're going to do another episode on that, but I want to do that with Leah because we're going to talk about getting down to those bare bones and just scrubbing away what the world told us that we're supposed to be. It's exactly what letting go loudly is about. And then we can layer on the truths and they will cement and work. So let's get into this next reflection that I want you to consider. What to release versus what to carry forward. So here's a coaching reframe I want you to sit with. And this is something I work with my clients on. So you're getting a sneak peek here. Just because something worked once doesn't mean it belongs to your next season. What might you be ready to release, right? Maybe roles rooted in obligation instead of a calling. People pleasing disguised as kindness. Hustle that was fueled by fear, not faith. Oh, fear. Isn't it the gas in most of our tanks? When we really get down to it, isn't the reason that we do or don't do something fear? I know it has been for me. If I'm not intentional about recognizing why I don't want to do something or why I do want to do something, oftentimes at the core, it's a fear. It's a fear of being misunderstood. It's a fear of not being liked. It's a fear of someone talking about me. But you know what? When you release the need for other people to like you, there's so much freedom. And friends, This was a hard truth for me to swallow, but once I digested it, oh, the freedom. There are going to be people in your life, and I'm going to say too, there are going to be people in your life that 1,000% should be there for you, whether it's DNA or long-term relationships that will create a narrative about you to fill a hole in them. It becomes their story of you, not your truth. And you can chase and you can defend and you can engage and you can try and share your point of view. But sometimes those friends are not interested in the truth because they're interested in creating a narrative about you that makes them feel better. We have to release that. Jesus says in Matthew 11:28-30, my yoke is easy and my burden is light. That just brings refreshment to my soul. When I think about how when I'm stressed or when I am struggling because someone is gossiping or people are creating narratives or false stories, you know what? I am going to rest in God because He knows the truth. He knows who I am. He knows who you are. He has designed you with a design and a divine roadmap for you to walk out. And it's time to see that roadmap, to release the things that aren't working, and to walk out in His truth, not the truth that's created by other people. If it is crushing you, controlling you, or costing you your peace, well, my friend, it may not be yours to carry anymore. Here's what I want you to consider and reflect on carrying forward. Practices that ground you with God. Boundaries that protect your energy. Work and relationships that feel aligned, not forced. Alignment often feels quieter than striving, but my friends, it is so much steadier. So practices that ground you with God. Sometimes, you might be listening to this and you're like, Heather, I pray and I journal, but sometimes my body just like, my heart will race. My body just, it does something. And I get this question a lot. Well, I want to, one, acknowledge and say, there's nothing wrong with you. We have to normalize that our body keeps the score. And if you've been in a pattern of uncomfortableness with someone in your life, your body is going to go into a protective mode because it's been through it before. And I recently had a client ask me, like, why do, in this one relationship, why do I feel like when it's good, like I am on this roller coaster high of highs, but I feel like if I say something, quote unquote wrong or something, is mistook, it goes bad, it goes south really fast. And so whenever I'm around this person, I am just like my stomach hurts, my head hurts. And it's because you've got this quote unquote normalcy in the midst of dysfunction, right? So this person does something normal. They call you or text you something nice or send you a card. But other than that, they're talking about you behind your back. They're gossiping about you. They make snide remarks. So you want that good stuff because that's the way it should be, but it's not the truth. And your body knows it and your body keeps score. So some of the grounding practices that you can do too is just to put your hand on your heart and tell yourself that you're safe, that you are not who this person says you are, and also that you don't have to spend time with people that make you feel that way. And that's where boundaries come in, that you can protect your energy and you can say, you know what, if you're going to say that to me, I'm no longer going to stand here and listen. Like I can't control someone else from saying what they say. Also, if someone is very toxic, their behavior is very toxic to you, you don't owe them a response. And we're going to get more into those details in upcoming episodes. But, sometimes I think as women, and especially women of faith, we're taught like, well, that's so and so, or that's this relationship, and you have to be nice. But at what cost? And you know what? Nice is setting boundaries. Nice is being nice to yourself. Jesus set boundaries. Jesus set boundaries, and you can too. So I want to share with you an optional kind of pause or reflection invite that you can do after the episode. You can do every day, but I want to encourage you. So maybe later today or sometime this week, I want you to take 10 quiet minutes. You can set your timer if you want, And I want you to journal this. I want you to ask yourself, but I want you to write it down. What am I being invited to let go of? God, what are you inviting me to let go of? What feels sacred for me to carry forward? What just feels like a part of my divine design? Of what do you want me to carry into this new season, into this next year? And then who might I become if I stop trying to manage other people's comfort? Who might I become if I stop trying to manage other people's comfort? You don't need answers today, my friends, but you do need to be honest. If you are being honest with yourself, I want you to ask you this question too. Have I named myself the CEO of someone else's emotions? Do I believe I'm the CEO of my husband's emotions, or my mom, or my mother in law, or my adult child? Do I try and do all the things to keep someone else happy? Friends, there's one thing to want people to be happy and joyful, there's another to own their happiness. Because the reality is, nobody can make us happy. That's an inside job. And we are not responsible for another person's happiness. We're responsible for our actions, for our words and our actions and things that we say and do that might bring discomfort to somebody. But we are not responsible for someone else's happiness. So, friends, as we kind of round out this episode, I want to remind you that midlife is not a crisis, it's an invitation to stop proving, to stop performing, and to stop carrying what was never yours to carry in the first place. Letting go loudly doesn't mean walking away in anger. Sometimes it means releasing with gratitude and choosing alignment instead. Proverbs 3:5-6 reminds us, trust in the Lord with all your heart and lean not on your own understanding. In all your ways submit to him, and he will make your path straight. Not a rushed path, not a forced path, and not a straight path. No, he does make it straight. But what I wanted to say with that was, we know our destiny. Like, we know that we're going to spend eternity in heaven with God. But the path isn't straight. It's curved to get there, to get to the end. And there's bumps and bruises along the way. And being a woman of faith does not mean that we're going to have blue skies and rosy days. But it does mean we know the one who carries us. Friends, if this episode stirred something in you, sit with it, journal it, pray through it. And if you feel led, share this episode with someone who's standing at that same crossroads. You are not behind. You are not broken. You are becoming. And that is true holy work. As we bring the conversation to an end, remember, in this season of life, with grown kids, with shifting rhythms, and getting back to you and how God designed you to be, not how others need you to be. Letting go loudly with honesty, softness, and a whole lot of love. And watch how much more joy finds its way in. And there you have it. Another episode of Letting Go Loudly is in the books. I hope you're walking away feeling heard, encouraged, and more empowered to live out your version of letting go loudly. Remember, life can be hard and beautiful at the same time. Choose what you're ready to release and make room for the good that's already there. If this episode did resonate with you, subscribe, like, share with a friend, and leave a review. It really does help us grow and reach more women. And if you want, you can find us on Instagram at Letting Go Loudly, where you can connect with other women who are letting go loudly and share how you navigate life and your reflections. Well, see you next time, friend. Until then, continue to let it go loudly. It's been my honor to go solo, but I am so looking forward to having Leah back in the studio with me. See you later, friends. Bye.